In the Serengeti, survival is a battle fought on many fronts. Every moment is a high-stakes contest. Fierce rivals compete for territory, mates, and resources. Predators sharpen their hunting skills, challenging their prey at every turn. Ingenious defense strategies are tested in an ever-changing landscape. And strong family bonds forge loyalty, sacrifice, and teamwork. But for some, staying alive means being constantly on the move. Despite lurking predators and perilous terrain, enormous herds press on, driven by instinct and the promise of new life. As the wonders of nature unfold across the Serengeti's timeless landscapes. A low rumble stirs across the Serengeti grasslands. Hundreds of thousands of wildebeest begin to move, driven by the promise of fresh grazing. Each year, they undertake the largest land migration on Earth. A monumental trek where their survival demands near constant movement. Predators lurk at every turn, forcing the herds to stay one step ahead. This is Africa's greatest spectacle, a timeless journey fueled by rain and ruled by instinct. On the eastern edge of Africa lies Tanzania, home to one of the last great wildernesses. Here, the vast Serengeti takes center stage, a thriving ecosystem teeming with life. At the end of a long, punishing dry season on the Serengeti Plains, the skies darken. Here, there are only two seasons, dry and wet. With the arrival of rain comes a time of renewal that governs the very rhythms of life here. For some creatures, it marks the return of their precious habitat. For others, it's simply something to endure as the landscape transforms around them. Yet at the end of this rainbow lies the elusive promise. A once parched earth, now carpeted green. Tender and sweet, these young shoots and leaves are nature's bounty. Drawn by the renewed grass, huge herds cross the Serengeti to feast. Nearly 2 million wildebeest roam these plains. Joined by countless zebras and gazelles, all converging on the freshly sprouted feeding grounds. With so much food, it's the ideal time to give birth. The wildebeest capitalize on it by synchronizing their calving. Within just 3 weeks, 90% of their young are born, inundating predators with more prey than they can handle. The newborns are easy targets. Each must learn to stand and run within minutes of entering the world. With more mouths to feed and nursing mothers striving to maintain milk supplies, the herds devour grass at a relentless pace. Always moving onward in their endless search for greener pastures. Once the youngsters find their feet, they celebrate with a merry dance, racing around, building muscle, and learning to follow the herd's movements. With full bellies, even young bulls have the energy to strut their stuff. However, this carefree play has risks. Some calves lose track of their mothers. And no female will feed another's baby. A lost calf has just hours to reunite or face dehydration. And the watchful eyes of predators. The lone calf is lucky. Belly full and surrounded by potential prey, an adult male lion can't be bothered to give chase. Neither can his adolescent sons. Adult jackals are also capable of taking down a newborn wildebeest calf. But it appears this one is more interested in play. Lionesses, on the other hand, carry the pride's hunting responsibilities. Often with cubs and even adult males to feed, they rarely ignore an easy meal. This time, the young wildebeest proves just fast enough to evade them. A narrow escape, but without its mother, the calf is far from safe. Exhausted, the odds seem stacked against the lost calf. Yet the arrival of another wildebeest herd offers some reassurance. Females recognize their offspring by a unique scent and call. Mothers only allow their own babies to suckle. Starving, the calf will try anything for a sip of milk. Unwelcome and alone, it soon becomes an easy target for a group of rowdy youngsters, more interested in tormenting the newcomer than offering support. Eventually, they lose interest, and the calf escapes unscathed. Puddles from the recent rains provide a chance to quench its thirst. But time is running out. Finding the right mother among thousands seems all but impossible. But every now and then, a miracle occurs. A lost voice is heard and recognized. Hours after being separated, mother and calf are reunited. A happy ending against the odds. As the grass is depleted and the rains move on, so do the wildebeest, driven by an endless quest for fresh food. The herds follow a circular journey of over 800 kilometers, which takes a year to complete. Traveling clockwise from Tanzania's southern Serengeti, across the treacherous Grumeti River, and into Kenya's Masai Mara before heading back south to start the journey again. The Serengeti's resident animals, those that don't migrate, grow accustomed to the annual arrival and departure of millions of visitors. For the giants of the grasslands, this sweeping tide of bodies is as much a part of their world as the storm clouds that guide the herds. Stretching beyond the horizon, a sea of bodies moves as one across the open plains. Wildebeest spend roughly a third of their day feeding. Clipping the grass rather than pulling it out by the roots stimulates new growth. The same rains that replenish the plains also draw in another migrant. Out on the shallow lakes, vast flocks of flamingos take advantage of the rain-swollen waters. Each year, they gather here to breed and feed in the region's alkaline lakes and mineral-rich hot springs. These elegant birds flourish where few others can, using specialized bills to filter out algae, the source of their vibrant pink hues. But, like the wildebeest herds, many predators seek to exploit these massive congregations. A pair of African golden wolves roams the perimeter, alert to any opening. Wolves are opportunistic and relentless. Yet in open terrain, stealth is no easy feat. With limited cover, they must adapt. Relying on patience rather than power, and waiting for an unwary bird to wander too close. These shallow lakes pose a very different threat for the wildebeest. In their relentless quest for fresh grass and water, some wildebeest wander in, unaware of the hidden dangers beneath the surface. Flamingos, with long legs designed for wading, sift algae from the water's surface with ease. But heavy adult wildebeest often sink into the mud, where they can quickly become trapped. Her lighter calf manages to stay on top of the lake's mud crust. It would be safer on dry ground, but the calf can't survive without its mother. With some encouragement, she manages to get back to her feet. But mud traps are the least of their worries on the Great Migration. The open plains are the hunting ground of the world's fastest land mammal, the cheetah. This female has successfully raised 5 cubs to adolescence, a testament to her skill as a hunter. Yet even the best face setbacks. Her cubs eagerly join the chase, but they're still learning and remain skittish around so many thundering hooves and horns. After regrouping, their mother demonstrates how it's done. A wildebeest calf provides a much-needed meal for the entire family. But cheetahs must eat quickly. All across the Serengeti, watchful eyes wait for an opportunity to snatch a free meal. It's easy to keep a few vultures at bay, but many more will soon arrive. Though predators remain a constant threat, conflicts within the herds can be just as intense. After several weeks of good grazing, wildebeest bulls are in prime condition, ready to test one another for territory, status, and the chance to mate. They start to flex their muscles and show off their prowess. Each male aims to establish a temporary territory by ousting other bulls and attracting any females in season onto his patch. Fights between males are usually only displays of dominance. No one wants to risk a serious injury. After all, an animal that can't keep up with the herd won't last long on the Great Migration. This male lion may not be in hunting mode, but the herds aren't taking any chances. With such a formidable predator nearby, and the wildebeest fueled by hormones, it doesn't take much to get them back on the move. On their endless migration, the herds face many dangers, but few are greater than water. Although wildebeests are strong swimmers and can cross rivers with ease, it's what lurks in the muddy depths that poses the real threat. These weary travelers must drink to survive. Yet they sense danger in the shallows. With so many animals compelled by thirst to the water's edge, this is a season of plenty for opportunistic predators. The element of surprise belongs to the Nile crocodiles. Each year, the arrival of the great herds offers these reptiles their best chance to feed and fatten up. They can't afford to miss too many times. This is a place where inexperience can kill. When the crocodiles do succeed, it's a free-for-all. An even greater challenge lies just ahead. The Grumeti River. Although it may seem relatively calm, low water levels leave the banks treacherously high. Down below, crocodiles lie in wait. They position themselves just downstream from where the masses cross. They must feed now, for the herds only pass through once a year. The river may not be deep, but the current is strong. Wildebeest have an inherent instinct to press forward at all costs, unaware or undeterred by the dangers hidden below. Crocodiles wait patiently, ready to seize any that lose their footing or are swept away. On the riverbanks, urgency and unrest ripple through the herds. Crowded into a tight bottleneck, they are vulnerable to ambush. A single lioness is enough to trigger panic, and for good reason. Yet still, the columns of wildebeest and zebra surge onward, refusing to give ground, fighting their way across, driven by an instinct older than memory. For some, a narrow escape. For others, death enables many more to survive. Although the crossings seem daunting, most of these migrating animals make it. Wildebeest aren't the only travelers braving these waters. Thompson's gazelles also face perilous river crossings as they search for better grazing. Further upstream, the herd scouts for a safer spot to cross, wary of the dangers that lurk out of view. To reach greener pastures, they must cross. For a solitary youngster, the leap into the unknown is overwhelming. But crossing together and at speed gives these gazelles their best chance. It's difficult for crocodiles to strike airborne prey. Those that linger become prime targets. Over 500,000 of these antelopes migrate from the southern Serengeti plains to the woodlands in the north each dry season. But over recent years, Thompson's gazelles have seen their numbers decline by about 60%. Not due to predation, but to increased human activity and habitat changes along their routes. Even as these age-old survival strategies have guided the migration for millennia, new pressures are reshaping their future. As the dry season tightens its grip in the south, vast herds of wildebeest continue their march north, covering hundreds of kilometers across the plains. The herds aren't the only ones on the move. The flamingos that settled here to breed are now gearing up for their next journey. Their flock has swelled with newly fledged youngsters. But as water levels drop and feeding grounds shrink, it's time for them to depart once again. Behind them lies a quiet, feather-strewn wilderness, and the few not yet fit for the skies. Some flamingos are held back by waterlogged or injured wings, collateral damage from mass takeoffs. A marabou stork circles overhead, scanning the shallows for an easy meal. Her growing chicks still depend on her for food. And like all opportunistic hunters, she seizes the chance to target a vulnerable flamingo whose wings can't lift it to safety. An unfortunate yet practical choice for a hungry provider. The vast herds have finally made it to the northern reaches of their range. This refuge will provide enough food and shelter to sustain them for around 5 months, until the rains return down south. Resident animals like giraffes can still find places to feed despite the mass arrival of these hungry travelers. Thanks to their ability to feed above the reach of most competitors. Their towering necks grant access to succulent leaves that lie well beyond the grazing zone of other herbivores. Elephants, too, leverage long trunks and considerable strength to forage where others can't. By stripping bark and knocking down small trees, these giants secure prime foliage for themselves. The herds remain here until the land becomes bare and desolate, worn down by countless hooves. Then, like clockwork, sensing distant storm clouds gathering to the south, the herds turn back toward their breeding grounds. Compelled by ancient instinct, they begin the long trek back to plains hundreds of kilometers away. The land they leave behind becomes increasingly parched. Leaving resident predators like cheetahs to make do with whatever remains. For all who stay, the dry season brings hardship, forging a precarious balance until the skies open once again. Yet with each passing year, unpredictable climate patterns reshape the Serengeti. And fire remains an integral force within this drying ecosystem. Clearing away young trees to preserve these grasslands for the millions of grazers that depend on them. Hot blazes can spread rapidly, but most animals simply flee. Once the flames die out, the scorched earth yields nutrients for fresh growth. Yet this open terrain leaves nowhere to hide. Catching small game is one thing, making a successful kill is another. Especially for cheetah cubs that rely on their mother until they're about a year old. In this lull between migrations and the next rains, every hunt becomes a critical test of survival. The great herds continue their march south, roaming from pasture to pasture, a rhythm as old as humankind, until they return to the short grass plains where their journey began. Over 2 million grazers converge on these southern plains. Where a new generation waits, ready to join this timeless cycle. Some animals are lost along the way, but whenever 2 million move together, predators have little impact on their vast numbers. Across the herds, mothers give birth in near unison. Ushering in new life, new adventures, and new trials for the Serengeti's youngest. For these newborns, life on the move begins the moment they enter the world. Following, quite literally, in the hoofprints of those who came before. Within minutes, each must stand, drink, and learn how to follow its mother. Now they too become part of the Great Migration, one of the greatest spectacles in the natural world. Seasons will once again shift from wet to dry. Yet the trek continues, touching the lives of every creature along the route. From birth to death, predator to prey, drought to downpour. This is the unbroken circle that defines the Serengeti. And so, the march continues. Thunderstorms in the distance draw hooves, old and new, onto a path trodden for countless generations. Forever guided by the rain, and inspired by the eternal promise of new life. They embark on a dangerous marathon that billions have survived before them. The terrain and predators will take their share, but the secret lies in one simple rule: keep moving on. Yet the story doesn't end here. Explore the powerful bonds that form within families. Witness unrelenting competition for territory, resources, and the right to breed. And finally, uncover the secret lives of those who depend on water. As the wonders of nature continue to unfold across the Serengeti's timeless landscapes,